My beloved brothers and sisters, remember this: no test from the Almighty lasts forever. Every difficulty you face has already been measured and timed by the one who loves you most. When the night feels darkest, it's often because dawn is just around the corner. Sometimes the Almighty allows you to walk through the storm, not to break you, but to cleanse your heart and prepare you for what's next. So, if you are being tested, do not lose hope. Your test is about to end. One of the first signs that your test is nearing its end is inner calm after chaos. You may still be surrounded by challenges, but something within you begins to settle. You stop panicking. You begin to accept that the Almighty knows what He's doing. That peace in your heart is not weakness. It's divine assurance that relief is on its way. The second sign is when doors begin to open in unexpected ways. Maybe a person appears out of nowhere to help you. Maybe an opportunity you never imagined suddenly unfolds. These are not coincidences. They're gentle whispers from above saying, hold on, I haven't forgotten you. The third sign is when you begin to see wisdom in your pain. You look back and realize that what once broke you has now built your strength, deepened your faith, and softened your heart. The tears that once burned your eyes have washed your soul clean. You start thanking the Almighty not just for what He gave you, but for what He took away. Because now you understand it was protection, not rejection. And finally, the fourth sign, your prayers change. You still call out, but no longer in despair. You speak to your Lord with peace, knowing that He heard you from the very first tear that fell. Your supplication turns into gratitude. What? You no longer beg for escape, you ask for wisdom, for patience, for closeness. That is the moment the test begins to fade and blessings quietly start to take its place. So, my dear ones, if life feels heavy right now, don't give up. You are closer to relief than you think. Keep your heart clean, your tongue grateful, and your trust firm. The one who tested you is the same one who will lift you. Your test is about to end, and when it does, you'll realize it was never meant to destroy you, but to elevate you. Every hardship has an expiry date, and that truth alone can change how you face your trials. When the Almighty decrees a test for you, He also determines its beginning and its end. Nothing in life is permanent except His mercy. The pain you feel, the confusion that surrounds you, the silence that breaks your heart, all of it is temporary. Sometimes we get lost in the middle of our struggles and begin to believe that the darkness will last forever. But if you look closely at nature, you'll find a quiet reminder that everything moves in cycles. The night gives way to dawn, the winter melts into spring, and even the fiercest storms eventually lose their strength. Likewise, no human heart is left in pain forever. The same Lord who allowed the storm will also bring you the calm. When you are being tested, it's easy to assume that the Almighty has forgotten you. You may cry for help and hear nothing but silence. You might wonder why others seem to live peacefully while you keep falling. But silence is not absence. Sometimes the Almighty's silence is His way of strengthening your soul. It's during those quiet moments that you learn patience, humility, and sincerity. You begin to understand that faith is not proven by words, but by endurance. Anyone can say, I trust, but only a heart that has waited and endured can truly mean it. The hardship becomes your teacher, and with every passing day, your heart is being polished, refined to see what was once invisible to you. There's comfort in knowing that nothing you go through is wasted. Every tear, every sleepless night, every disappointment, all of it has a purpose. You may not see it while you're in the middle of it, but one day you'll look back and realize that the pain had a time limit. Even when you feel that your test has dragged on for years, remember that the Almighty's measure of time is not the same as yours. What seems endless to you is a moment in His perfect plan. The key is to remain patient and steadfast until that decree comes to an end. The Prophet once said that when the Almighty loves a person, He tests them. Why? Because a test purifies the heart. It strips away arrogance, pride, and dependence on this world. It teaches you who truly matters. Every test you face is designed with precision. It's not random, nor is it unfair. The Almighty knows exactly how much you can handle, and He never burdens a soul beyond its capacity. The fact that you are being tested means that He trusts your strength more than you do. So when your heart begins to feel heavy, remind yourself this is temporary. The pain has an expiry date, and so does the sadness. There will come a day when you will wake up and realize that the weight you've been carrying is gone, and in its place is peace you never imagined you could feel. Often, people lose hope just before relief arrives. That's when the pressure feels unbearable, when you're tired of praying, tired of waiting, tired of pretending to be strong. But that's also the point when your breakthrough is closest. Just as dawn appears right after the darkest part of the night, your relief is often moments away when you feel like giving up. If only you could see how close you are to peace, you would never stop being patient. The Almighty doesn't allow pain to linger for no reason. He is teaching you to rely fully on Him, to find hope not in your circumstances but in His promise. Think of all the moments in your life when you thought you wouldn't make it, yet here you are, reading this, breathing, stronger than before. Every one of those past tests had an ending. That alone is proof that the current one will too. Sometimes you can't see the finish line because you're still running the race, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You just have to keep moving, step by step, trusting that each moment brings you closer to relief. What makes this truth so beautiful is that it changes how you experience hardship. When you truly believe that every test has an expiry date, you stop panicking. You begin to handle your pain with dignity and calm. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, there must be wisdom in this. That mindset doesn't erase the pain, but it gives you strength to walk through it gracefully. It fills your heart with quiet confidence that the same Lord who brought you into the storm will guide you safely out of it. Patience doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means you keep your faith alive even when it hurts. You cry, you pray, and you wait, but you don't complain against your Creator. You remind yourself that every second of endurance is being written as a reward, and every tear is washing away a sin. You start seeing your test as a bridge to something better, not a wall that blocks your way. And when you hold on to that belief, you begin to feel a strange sense of peace even before the situation changes. That peace is a sign that the test is nearing its end. So, if you are struggling right now with loss, illness, fear, or uncertainty, hold on. The Almighty is closer than your own heartbeat, watching your patience, counting every tear, and writing down every moment you choose faith over frustration. Your test will not last forever. It may take longer than you hoped, but it will not exceed its appointed time. Relief is written, peace is promised, and when it arrives, you'll understand why it had to take this long. You'll thank the Almighty not just for ending your hardship, but for the strength He gave you to endure it. Because the truth is, every hardship has an expiry date, and yours may be closer than you think. Patience brings divine comfort. It is one of the most beautiful signs that your test is nearing its end. When you first enter a trial, your heart is often restless. You ask questions, you search for answers, you cry, and you may even feel anger or confusion. But as time passes and your soul begins to understand that everything comes from the Almighty, something inside you starts to change. The same situation that once filled you with anxiety begins to bring you calm. You still face the same difficulty, but your heart no longer fights it. That quietness you feel within that sense of surrender is not weakness. It is divine comfort descending upon you. It's the peace that only patience can bring. Patience is not just waiting. It is waiting well. It is maintaining faith while waiting. Many people wait, but not all wait with grace. True patience means that while your eyes still see the storm, your heart is at rest because you trust the one who controls the storm. When you understand that the Almighty never wrongs His servants, you stop asking why me and start saying guide me. That shift in your mindset is a sign that your heart has matured. You are no longer wrestling with destiny, you are walking with it. That's when divine comfort begins to fill your soul, not because your problem has vanished, but because you've aligned your will with the will of your Lord. It's a strange and beautiful feeling when you reach that stage. You might still have unanswered prayers, but you no longer panic. You no longer look for quick fixes or blame others for your situation. Instead, you find yourself whispering, "It will be okay, my Lord knows best." That sentence carries a power that the world cannot give. It's not blind optimism, it's faith in its purest form. It's the understanding that even if things don't make sense now, They will one day, and that's enough to bring peace. Divine comfort is like a quiet reassurance that enters your heart when everyone else has stopped encouraging you. It is the type of calm that doesn't come from explanations or solutions, it comes from trust. You begin to realize that your strength was never in your control, your plans, or your resources. It was always in your connection to the Almighty. The test might still be ongoing, but it no longer owns your peace. You learn to separate your circumstance from your state of heart. That's when you start noticing how light you feel, even in difficulty. The beauty of patience is that it transforms your pain into worship. Every time you resist despair, you are worshipping. Every moment you choose to smile despite the tears, you are earning reward. Every time you say Alhamdulillah in hardship, you are being elevated. The Almighty loves the patient because patience is the mark of true faith. It's easy to be grateful when everything is perfect, but to remain thankful when your heart is broken, that's faith in its highest form. And when you reach that level, the Almighty begins to comfort you in ways no human could. Many people think comfort only comes after the trial ends, but that's not true. Real comfort often comes during the trial, when you surrender fully to the Almighty's plan. The burden doesn't necessarily disappear, but you stop feeling crushed by it. You carry it differently with peace, not panic. This is divine comfort. You begin to notice that your heart no longer trembles when things go wrong. You've seen enough of life to know that every loss, every setback carries wisdom. You no longer measure happiness by ease, but by nearness to your Creator. There's something deeply healing about letting go of control. Human beings exhaust themselves trying to manage what was never theirs, to manage the timing of events, the actions of others, the outcomes of prayers. But patience teaches you to release all that. You stop trying to rush the decree. You stop demanding immediate answers. You begin to live in the present moment with trust, knowing that whatever the Almighty has written for you will reach you, and what isn't meant for you will pass you by. That kind of surrender doesn't weaken you, it liberates you. It removes the weight of constant worry and replaces it with serenity. As you grow in patience, you also start to notice how your thoughts and emotions change. You become gentler, more forgiving, less reactive. You stop getting angry at small inconveniences because you've tasted real hardship and survived. You stop envying others because you understand that everyone carries a test you cannot see. This calmness is a gift from the Almighty, a sign that your heart has found balance. You begin to respond to life with wisdom, not emotion. And that's when the clouds start to part, slowly but surely. Another beautiful aspect of divine comfort is that it teaches you empathy. When you've waited, you understand others who wait. When you've struggled, you comfort others in struggle. When you've endured silence, you become a voice of hope for those who feel unheard. The Almighty uses your patience not only to heal you, but to make you a source of healing for others. Sometimes your endurance becomes someone else's inspiration. That too is a form of relief, knowing your pain had purpose beyond yourself. If you ever feel like your patience is running out, remind yourself that comfort is already on the way. The fact that you've endured this long means the Almighty has been with you all along. Patience is not endless suffering. It is the bridge between pain and peace. The closer you get to the end of your test, the lighter your heart begins to feel. You might not notice the exact moment it happens, but one day you look back and realize your heart healed before your situation changed. That is the mark of divine comfort. So keep holding on, keep being patient, even when it's hard. Don't measure your progress by how quickly things improve, but by how calmly you can wait. The Almighty sees you. Every sigh, every tear, every prayer whispered in the dark, none of it goes unnoticed. And when the time is right, the same Lord who gave you patience will give you peace beyond measure. That quiet strength you feel growing inside you is not accidental. It's a sign that your test is almost over. Patience has led you to divine comfort, and divine comfort is the beginning of your relief. Doors begin to open subtly. That's one of the clearest signs that your test is nearing its end. When the Almighty decides that your season of hardship has served its purpose, He begins to shift things around you in gentle, almost unnoticeable ways. You might not wake up to a miracle overnight, but you'll start to sense movement where there was once stillness. Opportunities that seemed impossible begin to appear. People you never expected to meet cross your path. Paths that were closed suddenly begin to open, one by one, almost quietly. It's as though the universe itself starts rearranging in your favor, not because of luck, but because the decree of relief has been written. Sometimes those openings are not grand or dramatic, they're small, almost hidden. You might receive a phone call that changes your outlook. A person offers a kind word that renews your hope. An idea comes to your mind that gives you clarity. These are not coincidences, they are signs. They are divine whispers reminding you that your Lord hasn't forgotten you, that your patience has been seen, and that your prayers have been heard. The Almighty often works in silence. His help doesn't always come with thunder or noise. It comes in the form of subtle mercy, quiet guidance, and perfectly timed opportunities. Many times, when people go through long tests, they expect the ending to be sudden and grand. But in reality, the way relief unfolds is almost always gentle. It's like the breaking of dawn. You don't see it happen all at once, but before you know it, light fills the horizon. That's how the Almighty brings ease after difficulty. He opens doors in ways that don't overwhelm you, but ease you into the next chapter of your life. This is part of His mercy. If He gave you everything at once, you might not be ready to handle it. So He lets the change come softly, gradually, until you realize that the heaviness you once felt is gone and you are standing in the light again. The subtle openings are also a test of gratitude. When you begin to notice small changes, a little more peace, a little less struggle, that's the moment to increase in thanks. Gratitude attracts more blessings. The Almighty says that if you are grateful, He will give you more. Many people miss this step. They keep waiting for the big miracle and fail to thank Him for the small ones along the way. But those small openings are actually the first drops of rain before the downpour. When you start saying Alhamdulillah for every small step of progress, you invite even greater relief into your life. There are times when the openings come in the form of people. The Almighty might send someone into your life, a friend, a stranger, a mentor who helps you in a way you never imagined. It could be a word, a prayer, a new opportunity, or even just kindness that gives you the strength to continue. Sometimes a single conversation can lift a burden that you've carried for years. That's not random. It's divine orchestration. The Almighty sends help through people, but it is His mercy that guides them to you. So when you experience this, don't put your trust in the person, thank the one who sent them. At other times, the openings are internal. You may still be in the same situation, but something inside you shifts. You begin to see things differently. What once felt unbearable now feels manageable. What once made you cry now makes you reflect. This change in perception is also a door opening. The Almighty begins to heal your heart before He changes your circumstances. He teaches you that true relief is not always external sometimes. It's the calmness that settles within your soul. When that peace comes, it's a sure sign that your test is nearing its completion because your heart has already begun to heal from within. It's important to recognize these subtle openings because they remind you that your prayers are not in vain. Sometimes you may think that your supplications are unanswered, but in truth, they are being answered slowly, piece by piece, in ways you don't yet understand. The Almighty's timing is always perfect. He doesn't rush, but He never delays beyond what is best for you. Every small step of progress, every moment of ease, every unexpected kindness, these are His signs telling you that relief is unfolding, that your season of difficulty is drawing to a close. You might also notice that as the doors start opening, the resistance you once felt begins to fade. Things that were once complicated start becoming easier. The weight on your chest begins to lift. You start feeling a sense of direction, like you finally know where you're heading. This clarity is a divine gift. It's the Almighty's way of guiding you out of confusion and back into purpose. What once felt meaningless now starts to make sense. The pieces begin to fit together and you realize that the entire